Greetings YouTube and welcome to the Blue Corner and to a Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile, and this one is going to be on Orcust, which is the deck I'm playing right now, and conveniently enough, arguably the best deck of the format. It just comes down to which variant, and I think at this point it's pretty much agreed upon it's Sky Striker Orcust, which is what I'm playing. As for what this deck is, for those of you who may not know what it does, given that this is primarily a Vanguard channel with the occasional bit of Yu-Gi-Oh! On it, Orcust is a Dark Machine mid-range deck whose goal is to play out of the graveyard in order to set up a board that allows you to interact with your opponent on their turn, disrupting their plays, and then on the following turn you kill them, or, going second, you attempt to break their board and then set up your combo. It's a very versatile deck that plays out of the graveyard. It's capable of recycling itself, and because it's Machine and Dark, two of the more supported themes in this game's history, especially Dark, its drawback of locking you to Dark special summons is laughable. And as a result, yeah, this deck is really good, and it's got the biggest target on its back as far as the ban list goes. And because it's Sky Striker Orcust, this may very well see two decks get hit on the ban list, or they'll do almost literally nothing to it, which would piss off everybody, but amuse me greatly. So that being said, let's get into basically, with black control or something like that. Like, it's a deck that's capable of being aggressive, but also being defensive and controlling. Like, I like something like this, and the fact that mid-range is a viable strategy in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is actually pretty cool, because it just hasn't been really that viable for years. The Yu-Gi-Oh's been either hard combo or hard control. The in-between shit just really couldn't work, but here we have Orcust and Salamangreat and Thunder Dragon, so like, yeah, mid-range is viable, and I love that. So anyway, as far as how this deck goes, as I said before, it plays in the graveyard. Orcust all have effects that activate in the graveyard, and if you do, you're locked to Dark special summons for the turn, but again, that's laughable. And we're just going to show you the lineup of what I'm playing, and then go from there. Like, this isn't really a particularly flashy build, it's just what I'm playing, what I like. So, these two are not actually Orcusts, but they might as well be because they interact with them very well. Gizmex is a Dark Machine that if it's in your hand or graveyard, as a quick effect, you can banish the top 8 cards of your deck face down to special summon it. And also, you can banish 3 monsters from your extra deck face down to pop a monster your opponent controls. However, he has the Dragon Ruler clause, meaning you can only use one of his effects per turn and only once per turn. So, ideally, you summon him on your opponent's turn and then pop something on your turn. And World Legacy World Wand can banish itself from the graveyard to summon one of your banished Orcust monsters. Simple Skeleton banishes to summon an Orcust from the graveyard except itself. Nightmare allows you to target a face-up monster on the field, any face-up monster on the field, so your opponents, if you have literally nothing to work off of. You can send one Dark Machine monster from your deck to graveyard except itself, and the targeted monster gains 100 attack times the level of the sent monster, and it's almost always going to be World Wand or Gizmek if you don't have Harp Horror in circulation. And finally, Harp Horror, who probably should be going to one on the ban list, is you can banish it from the graveyard to summon any Orcust from the deck except itself. And as we all know, summoning from the deck is incredibly good, and I would not be surprised if Harp Horror goes to 1, not 2 like they have in Japan. So, yeah, and then after that, it's just starters and hand drops. So as far as starters go, 2 copies of Mathematician, 1 Armageddon Knight, and 1 Dark Grepher. Obviously, these 2 are great in here because it's a dark deck. They're at 1 though, so you gotta make do with some other substitutions such as Mathematician. Scrap Recycler is another option, but because there can only be 1 is at 3 and Sky Striker is still a very prominent deck here, I'd rather not lose to that, so Mathematician it is. That being said though, if the Striker package does get hit in some capacity and you're forced to play Scrap Recycler, then yeah, I'll do that and probably play Scrap Golem as well and have that route of the deck. So yeah, not much to say about these guys. Mathematician does have the added benefit of if your opponent stops it with Ash, Veiler, whatnot, then you can at least get a draw if they kill it in battle. And then for hand traps, 2 copies of Phantasme and 2 copies of Ash Blossom. My locals here doesn't have other Orcust players at the moment, so I don't need to worry about DD Crow or Skullmeister. Otherwise, I would be playing them in over a couple of cards in here. But yeah, Phantasme and Ash get the job done, and I'm only playing 2 of each because this deck is much more draw-heavy than other previous iterations of Orcust, so I don't want to see these guys in multiples because they're hard once per turns, as opposed to DD Crow and Skullmeister. And for that draw power, 3 copies of Lure of Darkness, because this is a dark deck. 2 copies of the Orcust Destiny draw, Orchestrated Return. So you can send an Orcust or World Legacy monster from your hand or field to the graveyard to draw 2, hard once per turn. Orchestrated Babble is a field spell that if it's in your graveyard, except during the turn it was sent there, you can discard a card, add it back, and while it's in play, your Orcust monsters become quick effects, which is what allows you to play during your opponent's turn and do some silly things. Then for the Striker package, it's 3 copies of Engage. I can't believe it's still at 3. 1 copy of Shark Cannon. Stealing your opponent's monsters out of the graveyard is very good for a deck that likes to link climb and also play the Topologics. Widow Anchor, because it's Widow Anchor. Afterburners to break boards. It's really good for when your opponent in the mirror has IP Masquerena and Babel in play. You get to just clear both of them if you happen to have 3 spells in graveyard, but most likely just clear the Masquerena. And then the card that allows you to play this package, Drones. I low-key believe that Hornet Drones could get banned, and that will definitely kill the splashability of this deck and just force you to play pure Striker. I think Drones to 0 and Engage to 2 will probably be the most that happens on this list if they're that ambitious. Then for the generic stuff, Call Up of the Grave because hand traps are annoying, Cosmic Cyclone because we have back row decks here, Foolish Burial, Reinforcement of the Army, Upstart, and then for the traps, 2 Infinite Impermanents because I don't like my opponent having Call Up of the Grave for my Ash Blossom when I'm trying to stop their IB. And then on Orcust Crescendo, it's the themed counter trap that comes with most archetypes at this point. Except Crescendo banishes what it negates, and it requires you to have an Orcust Link monster. It also has an effect in the graveyard that allows you to banish it to add 1 machine monster that's in your deck or banish. I believe it's Dark Machines. Yeah, it's Dark Machine monsters that's in your deck or banish your hand, but you're locked to Dark Machine summons for the turn, which is a bit more restrictive than Dark summons. And yeah, the reason why I keep saying how the Dark restriction is barely a restriction is because pretty much all of your extra deck boss monsters are Dark. So you got Dingrisu, the rank 8 Xyz monster that you can Xyz summon using an Orcust Link monster as material. When it's Xyz summoned, you can use 1 of his 2 effects. The first one is send any card from the field that your opponent has to the graveyard. It's non-targeting, and yeah, they have to respond to it on its summon. And it's because of this one card here, among a couple other things, that Thunder Dragon is not doing as well as it was at the beginning of the format, because Dingrisu says, that's nice, Colossus, get it out of there. As well as stuff like Chaos Max and whatnot. Like, Dingrisu is so good, and he has another effect that you can either send the card to the graveyard, or you can attach 1 of your banished machine monsters to him as Xyz material. Also, if any of your cards were to be destroyed, you can detach material from him instead. Like, it's so good. His one drawback is you can only summon him once per turn, which is why you want to summon him on your turn, attach material, then you want to use Symbol Skeleton on your opponent's turn. Yeah, Dingrisu is really good, and the fact is, you can also just use 2 level 8s to make him, so he's available to level 8 decks. Then for the Orcust Link monsters, 3 copies of Galatea and 1 Longrisu. So they both have the effect to shuffle back banished machine monsters into the deck to do a thing. This shuffles back 1 to send an Orcust spell or trap from the deck. Hello, Babel. This shuffles back 2 to send 1 linked monster from the field to the graveyard. Also, if they're linked to another monster, this can't be killed in battle, this can't be killed by effects. So yeah, you just summon Galatea, shuffle, set Babel, link Dingrisu over it, attach, and yeah, these cards are good. And because of Babel, sorry, I can't speak, they are quick effects, so Longrisu becomes quite good. And then for the generic monsters, while still in the Dark package, 1 copy of IP Masquerena. This is what allows this deck to be so disruptive on your opponent's turn, because your basic Orcust combo will end with Babel in play, this on the field, and live Orcust monsters in your graveyard, including a Dingrisu that you can summon. And the reason that you can do so much is Masquerena is a link 2 that just takes 2 non-link monsters to make. It's dark, and it has the effect of, as a quick effect, during your opponent's main phase, you can link summon using it and monsters you control. The monster link summoned by this effect cannot be destroyed by card effects. So, yeah, there are quite a few good Dark Link monsters, and this is one of them. And it allows you to do some cheeky things, like you can summon Dingrisu on your opponent's turn to pop a card, and you can link with this in that Dingrisu to make Nightmare Unicorn or Topologic Trisbania. If you happen to summon Galatea instead, you can link these 2 to make a link 4, such as the Topologics. Yeah, like, Masquerena is a very strong card, and I'm actually thinking of playing a second copy because I have an Ultra Bear. The funny thing about this is that I ordered the Ultra Bear, and then literally, like, a couple days later, I decided to YOLO some Walmart packs, and then I pulled this Prismatic, so yeah, I have 2 IP Masquerenas in the most flashy way. And then for the other stuff, so Borosaur Dragon, because it's a dark and it's stable. Like there's very few decks that don't play Borosaur Dragon, and this isn't one of them. Then you've got the Topologic package, because Masquerena can help you make them on your opponent's turn. So, and Trisbania, again, I'm thinking about cutting for a second Masquerena. Unicorn and Phoenix can also be made on your opponent's turn. So these two are pretty self-explanatory. We know what they do. Trisbania, if you don't remember, if a monster is summoned to a zone that Link Monster points to, you can banish it and all spells and traps to burn your opponent for 500 per card banished this way, which is useful for just closing out games in time. Zero Barrows is basically a better Trisbania in that if a monster is summoned to a zone that Link Monster points to, you can banish everything on the field, and then during your next standby phase after this effect is activated and he's banished this way, he comes back and he gains 200 attack for every banished card from both players. Like, it's basically a Gren Maju from an extra deck, and he has the added benefit of being able to just blow up the field. Like, he's really good against back row decks or just board spam decks. Then you've also got Topologic Bomber Dragon, who, like the others, if a monster is summoned to a zone the Link Monster points to, you can wipe out everything in the main monster zones. You can attack except with him the turn, but if you're doing on your opponent's turn, moot point. Also, if he attacks an opponent's monster and after the battle you deal its attack as damage. And then running it out, Barricade Board Blocker and Sky Striker Ace Kagari. This one is pretty straightforward. I'm playing drones, so Kagari, get back drones, play drones, make something else. And as far as blocker goes, it's a Dark Link 2, takes two monsters with different names, and its effect is when it's Link summoned, you discard a card, and then also face-up spells you control can't be destroyed by opponent's card effects. Whoop-de-doo. And during the end phase, you can add back one of your continuous or field spells that's in your graveyard to your hand. Again, whoop-de-doo. The main thing about this card is you just are Link summoning it, so you can discard World Legacy World Wand or Orcust Nightmare from your hand so you can actually start comboing, because sometimes this deck will brick like that. And that is it in a nutshell. So yeah, as you can tell by now, this deck is very, very strong. It's versatile. It can play on both turns. It has the ability to play out of the graveyard, which is always good. It makes use of two of the best supported types, Dark and Machines. There's many ways to play this deck too. Like, this is probably the most consistent one. It is a bit weaker to Nibiru, but oh well. Small price to pay for what you can do with it. There's also Scrap Orcust, there's Lunalight Orcust, Pure Orcust, Machina Orcust. Like, Orcust is very flexible. This card's very good too. Yeah, like, where they go with this deck on the ban list, we'll see. These two are probably the biggest targets in the main deck, and as well as Galatea in the extra deck. I don't think they go after Dingrisu. Maybe to 1, but this deck can play with him at 1. Galatea to 2 or 1 is also a thing. And yeah, that's pretty much all I can really say here. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Until next time, this is Boo Starter 9, jacking out.